So much action. Traders market, Matt, stock pickers market. There's no question. I see good candidates on my bull list, on my bear list, and commodities, waiting on clarity out of Brexit, but there's always something to do here. One thing we wanted, and we do this with our halftime report, we have themes that we kind of identified on a day by day basis. Monday, we do our market prep, with our sectors and all that kind of stuff. Tuesday, we do our Delta Tuesday. And Delta Tuesday can encompass anything to do with the Delta market. One thing we decided in the pre-production show was to use Delta as a way to teach probability. And probability of touching or probability of expiring is very different. We have two candidates that we're going to go through, Coca-Cola and Tesla, to kind of frame that expectation, kind of set that up and talk about it for a few minutes.
Well, number one, Delta does a couple of different things. Number one, Delta defines the percentage of what you will capture given a $1 movement in a stock price when you are a buyer of an option. So if I go out to the market in Tesla, and let's say I want to buy a 0.60 Delta right there, I'm going to pay $3,825 for that contract, per contract. Well, what Delta defines is that per a $1 movement in the stock. So if Tesla goes from 283.29 to 284.29, for example, the value of my option does not go up $1. The value of my option actually goes up at the rate of Delta, which is 0.60. What Gamma does is it therefore tells us how fast Delta will move. So if the Gamma is, say, 10, so I'll take off the probability of touch real quick, Tim, and I'll just go back to, where is my deltas here? There we are. Okay, so Gamma here. So what the Gamma suggests, and there's no Gamma here, but what Gamma suggests is that this Delta per $1 movement will move at the rate of Gamma. So basically, Tesla has to move a lot for it to actually be impacted by Delta or by Gamma. So Delta defines, number one, the percentage that we're going to capture as a trader when we are buying options given a $1 movement in the stock. That's number one. As a seller, since we will never hold options we buy into expiration, as a seller of those options, which we will, Delta also defines the probability that that strike price will finish in the money. So if I buy a 0.60 Delta on Tesla and it's a 60, that tells me there's a 60% probability that Tesla will be above $275 in 101 days. Now, again, as a buyer, we would never hold through the theta risk of the last month and a half, 2 months. So as a buyer, we don't consider that to help us out in probability. That is always done from a technical perspective. But from a seller's perspective, when you're doing covered calls or credit spreads or naked puts or any theta type positive strategy, Delta helps you understand the probability that you will successfully cash flow on that vehicle on a monthly basis. So if an option finishes out of the money, that option finishes at zero. If you've sold that option, you get to keep all your cash flow. So for example, if on Tesla here, I come out and I sell a naked put, for example, at 180, right? Well, what the market is telling me, and this is something that's very important for traders to understand. What the market is telling me is that I have a 90% probability of simply cash flowing on that position. Well, if I have a 90% probability of cash flowing on that position, I have a 10% probability that I will have to buy Tesla, at expiration, for example. Okay, so let's drop this down to a 37-day contract. Now, for new traders, that's important to understand that Delta defines probability. But for veteran traders, we also know that Delta is not an exact science because it defines it at expiration. But there's 37 days left in this contract that the market go up and down and up and down and up and down. So one thing that it could be very helpful to understand is also adding a column called probability of touching. Now, what the probability of touching states is that at any point in this time frame, 37 days, you have that same 10 delta right here at 215 now, you have a 90% probability of cash flowing, but there is a 29% probability that that strike price is going to be hit at some point within that 37-day contract. And as veteran traders go, we all know that's where the risk truly lies. It's not at expiration. It's
Mhm.
the decision making we have to make when those strike prices are hit 29% of the time. Because a lot of times when it does get hit, if we don't do something, we're talking max risk type scenarios. So yes, I have a 90% probability of successfully cash flowing at expiration, but I only have a 70% probability that at some point that strike price at 215 versus the current price at 283 is going to be hit. So that might make me a little shy with doing something like this on Tesla. You take another stock like Coca-Cola, which is not as volatile, and you look at that exact same scenario where we're selling a 10 delta here. So we're selling a 10 delta on Coca-Cola. Once again, that exact same probability of 90% successfully cash flowing if I sell that naked put at 43 versus the stock price at 46. However, there's only a 21% chance that Coca-Cola will actually hit 43 in the next 37 days. So I just wanted to do a very quick little just understanding the difference between delta defining probability at expiration versus the market actually seeing those strike prices get hit within that time frame of that contract, and that is what we call probability of touching.
Well, and it sets up so many different implications on equity curves and drawdowns. Just think about it out there if you're a trader. If you set a stop loss 1/2 ATR from the strike price, even if you have a 10 delta, it doesn't mean you're going to have 90% win rate. You shouldn't expect it. So if you have your results come in and you've got a 70 or 80% win rate, that's probably more of what you should have expected. And I think in life, Matt, proper expectations are so important for us to have success. Because if you think you're going to be right 9.5 out of 10 times, but you're not, maybe you think you're doing something wrong, but that's actually maybe just by design. You know, the POT is a very effective tool there. Awesome job on that. There's quite a few stocks. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, when you're looking at, say, the indexes or anything, you can kind of do the exact same thing. You know, we start by issuing bull puts and bear calls at a 10 delta, right? You got these 10 deltas right here, but you have a 22% probability of touch. What we really see in the cash flow condor system is you have about an 80 to 85% probability of cash flowing.
Mm-hmm.